Welcome to this edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television, and obviously I am not in the studio. We have decided to take In Focus on the road for parts of this summer, and we're going to start with an interview today with the Independent Living Center, and we'll also talk with Andrew Hoover, Hoover on the radio with G1013. That'll be coming up in just a little bit, but as we normally do with our In Focus programs, I want to start by giving you a little information about some things that are happening around the community. If you are into the arts, now is the time to get your tickets. Your season tickets are available for a number of the arts organizations here in the community. Civic Hall Performing Arts Center is welcoming the 2018-19 Proudly Presenting series with a great lineup that includes the Texas Tenors, always popular. They're doing 2 shows on October 6th. 3:30 and 7:30. You'll also see In the Mood, Rockapella. So if you want more ticket information, check out civichall.com or give them a call at the number on the screen, 973-3350. It's the Director's Choice season, the 78th year of Richmond Civic Theater. They're going to have a great lineup on the main stage, including Sister Act opening in August, Dracula, a Charlie Brown Christmas, and you'll also find Young Frankenstein. If you want some information, go rct.org or give them a call at 962-1816. And also don't forget, season tickets are also available for the 18-19 season for the Richmond Symphony Orchestra. They've got a great lineup also. Season tickets are available. For more information, richmondsymphonyorchestra.org or give them a call, 966-5181. Saturday is Meridian Health Services City Fit, taking place from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Glenn Miller Golf Course. Starts off with a 4K color run and more. 935-5390 is where to call if you want more information. And summer is here. You can feel it in the heat, but also school is getting out. And Morrison Reeves Library 2018 Summer Reading Program kicks off on June 4th. You can register, read, activities, win lots of prizes June 4th through July 27th. MRLinfo.org is the website. 966-8291 is the number to call if you need more information on that. So we're going to now turn to our interview, or interviews actually is what we're going to have, a series of conversations, and we're going to start off with somebody we've had the ability to speak to before, but on a different show. We talked to you when I was co-hosting the Third Sector, or guest hosting the Third Sector. Jim McCormick, who is the CEO of Independent Living Center of Eastern Indiana. Thanks for being a part of the program today.
Oh, Eric, thank you so much for coming. This is great to have you guys here and on site, and we've got a lot of things that we'll be exploring today with you. So.
All right. You've got some anniversaries coming up.
Yes.
Your 10th anniversary as director here, and the 20th anniversary of this Independent Living Center.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about, first of all, the 20th anniversary and what you're going to do. Big party?
Well, the 20th anniversary, we feel so fortunate to be here for 20 years. Our center started like all of the centers of independent living, and there are 750 of them across the country. But they really start with a grassroots movement, some folks in the community with disabilities who say, you know, there's more to it than this. There's more to it than kind of just thinking about what it would be like to be integrated into the community. Let's really work on living independently, being integrated into our communities. Let's think about work. Let's think about just leading what we all call a normal life. And so our center started that way. The first 2 years were really kind of organizational years with a board of directors and some folks who then began looking for funding sources, some money, and after a couple of years, opened their doors. The first set of doors were down on Northwest 5th, in fact, where the bagel shop is now. That was where, yeah, that's where the center's original location was. And we've had 3 directors. I'm the third, but Ed Bell was our first director, and Ed was here for 5 years, and then Tom Cooney. And Tom was here also for 5 years, so I thought, well, I'll double up and I'll stay here for 10. So,
congratulations!
Thank you very much. It has been just a wonderful. The work that we do, and I've spent my career really in special education and mental health. the work that we do is so remarkable because all social service agencies have these success stories, you know, where someone does well, they respond well to treatment, or they respond well to therapy, or whatever. But there's an underlying thread to what we do that is absolutely life-changing. And I'd like to have, you know, a dime for every time someone has said, you know, you folks have really changed my life, or you folks have saved my life. And the really great thing about independent living is we look at each consumer as an individual, and it's one case at a time, one individual at a time, one program at a time. And the really remarkable thing is that the philosophy of independent living says that the consumer is the person who knows the most about their own disability. The consumer is in the best position to kind of set their own goals and work towards those goals. And then our job is whatever we can do to help facilitate someone achieving their goals. That's our mission. That's exactly what we do. And I've been fortunate to work in a lot of settings, and the best and greatest mission statement of any of the organizations I've worked in is ours that's here, and it's very simple. It just says to empower people with disabilities. I mean, it's amazing when you think about, you know, what we do for folks. I get kind of a little emotional about this because it is absolutely remarkable work. Absolutely remarkable.
Talk a little bit about, and I'm sure we'll find out from Tracy and Jackie a little bit later on, but talk about what it is exactly you do, where people feel that you have given them their lives back. When they come to the Independent Living Center, what do you do for them?
You know, it's a bunch of things. There are a number of core services that all centers for independent living offer, and it's peer support and helping folks kind of with independent living skills and advocacy, a number of things. Transition from nursing homes back to their home community, or transition from school to post-school work. But I think that what we do is enable people to see that their goals are in reach. It's interesting. For many of the consumers that we have, their disability is something that they've acquired later in life. And there's a tremendous adjustment that goes with that. Mm-hmm. We had a little get-together here last week, and one of our consumers was talking to some guests that we had here in the community. And she made a really strong point about how embarrassing she felt, all of a sudden having issues with her vision and needing to rely on someone else. And what the center does is provides assistive devices that really help meet the challenges of everyday living with a disability. And some of the things are really pretty simple, and you'll see some of those. But one of those that resonates with me, as Jackie explained to me, we have a little thing that fits on a coffee cup or any kind of a glass or cup. And when you pour liquid into it, it makes a beeping noise when it's right near the top, so that you don't have to worry about, if you've got a hot pot of coffee, kind of sticking your finger in to see what the level of your coffee cup is, or worse than that, winding up spilling coffee everywhere, because it's just not spilling the coffee. Mm-hmm. But you wind up feeling like, geez, I can't even pour a cup of coffee anymore. And what we do is provide these things that kind of let folks know that, wait a minute, you can still master your own environment. You can still control when you want your cup of coffee and how much coffee you want, and little things like that, to things that are really complex. You know, whether it's employment or making the transition from a nursing home back to your own place, whether it's an apartment or your own home. There's a huge difference between the two, but to a person with a disability, they're both just as significant. It's like mastering the everyday tasks and building your confidence in mastery of those everyday tasks. And that's kind of what we do on a pretty basic level.
You've used a couple of terms that I'd like you to go back and talk about a little bit. One is consumers, and you've used that term a few times here with us. Why consumers?
You know, people come with either a real confused idea of I mean, we've had and when you talk with our staff, they'll say people come and they've just given up with goals. You know, I've lost my vision. I don't have any goals anymore. Yeah, you're still the same person. You just have to kind of do things a little bit differently. And so for us, people aren't patients. They're not clients. They're folks. And consumers, I think, is a much less value-laden term. And, you know, our job is just to help people kind of regain that mastery that they had at one time, and begin to once again experience life not only in their own homes, but in their community or in their neighborhood far more fully than perhaps they thought they could. So we're kind of confidence builders in some respects.
The other term that you used is advocacy.
Yes.
Is that a legislative term, or is that a term that works with consumers? You advocate for them, with them, or?
Yes to both.
Yes to both. Okay.
Right. The issue around systems advocacy, you know, states kind of deal with issues. All 50 states deal with their own things, and sometimes when 50 states discover that they've got something in common, they turn to the federal government and rely on the federal government to, you know, create the enabling legislation or whatever. And so from our perspective, we do an awful lot with individual consumers to either advocate on their behalf or help them learn how to advocate for themselves. But the other side of that coin is, for us, then we also monitor state legislation, federal initiatives or state initiatives that might have a real positive or perhaps a negative, an unintended negative impact on people with disabilities. And so we really kind of play in both arenas. And I think you just can't say advocacy for one or the other. It really needs to be a pretty broad approach to both systems and individual advocacy. Because sometimes impact in Medicaid or Social Security decisions really are not just an individual decision. It may indeed be something that's an initiative at the federal level that we may need to look at changing or advocating to help educate the members of the legislature or members of the House and Senate nationally the impact that this subtle change may really have on the lives of people with disabilities.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take a little bit of time, talk to a couple of members of your staff, maybe get some show and tell and find out exactly what it is that you're showing people or giving people or loaning to people that are making this change in their lives.
Sounds great.
Jim, thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much, Eric.
We'll be back in just a moment. Coming up on the next episode of Access to the Arts, we'll have a conversation with the Richmond Shakespeare Festival about their upcoming season. Richmond Civic Theater talks about their upcoming fundraising dinner theater night. Richmond Community Schools Assistant Superintendent Chuck Reynolds talks about the relationship between the arts and the high school. And Symphony in the Park with the Richmond Community Orchestra. That's Access to the Arts, Thursday nights at 9 on WETV, Channel 20. Welcome back to In Focus. We are on the road visiting the Independent Living Center here in Richmond. 1818 West Main is the address. We actually haven't given that today, although it might have appeared on the screen. I don't know. I don't get to see it. When I'm in the studio, I get to see things. Now I just, never mind. I am with Jackie Spiker. Jackie, what is your title?
I am the director of the Chapter 2 program, which is our program for the older, blind, and visually impaired.
Okay, and that is different from other programs within the center, I assume.
Yes. Our program serves people 55 and older who have had vision loss. There is a second program, the independent living program, that serves anybody of any age with any disability.
There are aids that can be purchased at various drugstores, big box stores. What makes what you do, what you provide, how you deal with your consumers different than what they can pick up off the shelf?
Most, for instance, with magnifying glasses. I just visited a man the other day who had purchased magnifying glasses at a Walgreens or Walmart or Myers, a store like that, and they only go up to 3X. And the 3X did not work for him, so he just assumed he was never going to be able to read again. And when we went to visit him, we took our magnifier kit, which starts at 3X and goes up to 14X.
Wow.
And he discovered, he almost cried, when he discovered that he could take a 5X magnifier and he could actually read again. And suddenly he did not feel blind anymore. So the kinds of things we have are not typically available in your average department or variety store or drugstore.
And that's where Jim was speaking earlier about consumers saying you gave them their life back.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Talk about how the area that your program covers, because as I understand it, there's about a 7-county area that is central to this particular independent living center, but because of some of what you've done, you've been able to help and reach out even farther than that.
Yes, we received a state grant that allowed us to add 7 additional counties just a few years ago. So now we actually go all the way from Wayne County all the way south down to the Indiana-Kentucky border. And so we have a subcontracting agency down in Vevey, Indiana that serves 7 counties in that area, and then we serve 7 counties around Wayne County, including Rush, Franklin, Fayette, Union, Decatur, and Wayne.
There was a smile that came across your face when you,
Yes.
when you thought about even the number of people or the area that you're serving.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this job?
I have been here 11 years.
And tell me why you continue to stay.
I love it. I got here first as a consumer. When I lost my vision, a young woman from the Independent Living Center came to my aid, and she helped me get all the vision aids I needed, including my special bioptic glasses that have a combination binoculars and magnifying glass built into them. And she was so helpful to me to get my life back after I lost my vision that I was grateful when I had the opportunity to come here as a staff person and help other people who have had vision loss. Often they're very depressed. They feel like they have no meaning or purpose in life anymore because they feel like they can't make a contribution in their family or in their community, in their church. But with the tools that we can provide for them, almost anybody can find that they can do things again that they used to do before they lost their vision.
When you talk about the various consumers that you have, how much of what you do and what you're able to provide is income driven for them?
None. We are very fortunate that because of our funding from the state, we do not need to make a family income a guideline for receiving services or for receiving items of assistive technology that can help people to see or read again or hear again.
So what are the guidelines? Do they have to be referred by a physician? Jim talked about the number of eye doctors that you work with. So is it just a physician referral, or is it a family referral? And what's the paperwork that people have to go through with you?
We have very little paperwork. We do not need to ask for a Social Security number. We do not need to ask for financial information. We don't ask for documentation of the disability. We just basically, if the person states that they have a disability, then we can help them.
How do you find out if that's correct? I mean, you just threw me. There is a program, federal and/or state,
Right.
that you don't have to go through reams of paper to get help?
True, true.
How does
Well,
that work?
with the population that I work with, I mean, you can either see to read or you can't see to read. And that is one of the primary criteria for those with vision loss, because that's often one of the very first abilities that people with vision loss lose. And that's often why the primary reason they come to us is because they want to be able to read again. They want to be able to see their TV again. They want to be able to make a phone call accurately by being able to see the numbers on the phone. They want to be able to see to cook in the kitchen. And we can provide bold format things, we can provide talking things that can help them to do exactly those things.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk to another one of your colleagues, because at that point, I'm interested in seeing and having you show some of what it is that you work with. We spend a lot of time talking back and forth. I think for people to be able to see what you're talking about will be very important. So I'm looking forward to being able to do the show and tell.
Great.
So Jackie, thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back with more in just a moment. Glad that you're able to join us for this On the Road in Focus as we visit the Independent Living Center, 1818 West Main Street. We've changed the body in the seat, and I'm now talking with Tracy Taylor. Tracy, how are you?
I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good.
What is your title here?
Well, I am the Director of Independent Living Services.
Okay.
So
that
that's
seems
a little-
pretty short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah, it's a little broad. Basically, I am the director of our program that works with any age and any disability. And for the folks who do not yet qualify for Jackie's program, who you spoke with earlier.
Okay, so there are people who have disability that are under the age of 55. Jackie's
Yes.
program picks up to that point.
Yes.
You start with some people that are younger.
Yes.
How young?
Our youngest is 3.
Your youngest is 3.
Yes.
Okay.
So we do everything from birth all the way through. So what we do with 3-year-olds, or how we support 3-year-olds and their families, is we can assist with like first steps and things of that nature, getting them into the school system, getting them connected with therapy, things of that nature if that's needed. Okay. Another major thing that we do for families with young children with disabilities is we provide a lot of family support. Because a lot of times once the medical side is sort of stabilized, there's not a whole lot out there. It's kind of like, okay, well, your son or daughter is stable, have a good day, and the family's just kind of like, well, wait, what do I do now? My child isn't walking or talking or has some medical needs that I don't know how to fulfill. And so we kind of fill in from the human side after the medical side drops out or in conjunction with.
Most of what we've talked about is our vision disabilities. It sounds like you're talking services beyond that.
Yes, yes. Like you mentioned, we do serve folks with vision disabilities under the age of 55, but our majority of consumers are folks with mobility concerns, folks who need walkers, canes, wheelchairs, things of that nature, folks with learning disabilities, folks with mental emotional disabilities, things of that nature. We do a lot in the schools. We work with individuals with their individual education plan or IEP. And we also are starting our youth transition program to help students who have recently graduated from high school help them into their adult life, whether that be post-secondary college or a job or just general independent living skills, how to take the bus, how to budget, how to go shopping, things of that nature.
Do you find that what our youth go through, particularly when there's an accident or something that causes their disability suddenly, do they have different issues than things that may come upon an older individual just gradually?
Oh, definitely, I think. A lot of times, well, we both, I'm sure, felt this way. You know, you feel invincible as a youth. You know, you're just, oh, nothing's ever going to hurt me. I can go barreling down this hill head first and it'll be fine, or I can jump that, you know, those sorts of things. Sure. And so when a disability occurs at that age, or younger even, it strikes your whole identity. And because those are really identity forming ages. And you sort of have to relearn who you are and the angles that you're gonna interact the world with. And so we're there to not only be with the individual who has the acquired disability later, and also their family. Because a lot of times the disability, sort of the disabling event, has a huge impact on the family, not only financially, but emotionally, and sometimes even physically. They might need to move to allow for easier access for the individual in a wheelchair, or things like that. The individual may have their bedroom moved from upstairs to the living room, or things of that nature. So it's pretty disruptive for the whole family. So we can be there to sort of step in and assist on that, more or less, like I said, that human side.
The transition between what you do and what Jackie does, I'm 54 years old, yes. I have issues, I'm working with you, okay, I have a birthday. How much pain, agony, discomfort is it to make that? It
is seamless. All of our service coordinators work with both programs. So the individual would keep their same service coordinator. The individual really wouldn't, the consumer really wouldn't even notice the difference. There may be different things that may be available to them in Jackie's program that are a little bit more guided towards the low vision age, in terms of, like, although they're available in the independent living services program too. But basically the only main difference, and the consumer never sees this, is the color of their folder in the file. That's really the only difference.
Okay. So you all work pretty closely together all the way through.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not Jackie's program and my program. It's our program. And consumers go, you know, from my program to hers, or if they've had a vision disability that has now cleared, they could even go the other direction and go from hers to mine. We work seamlessly together because we're all in this together, you know. I mean, we're here to help folks in the most easy and supportive way possible.
The one question I haven't asked Jim or Jackie, how often are you all here? What are your hours? How can they find you? How do they reach you?
Our hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we do have a Facebook page. We also have a website. And like you mentioned, we are located at 1818 West Main here in Richmond. Okay. And our phone number, I'm assuming, can be on the bottom of the page, the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
But that is 765-939-9226.
Do they need to ask for anybody in particular?
Not in particular. What would happen is, most likely, if somebody called for services, the person who's answering the phone would get some general information about them, basic demographics and types of services they may be interested in, type of disability, those sort of very, very general things. And then that information gets passed along to Jackie or I, and then we would go ahead and parcel it out to a service coordinator to follow up and start with the paperwork, which is painless.
I had a chance to talk to you all once before when I was guest hosting the Third Sector, and you brought some items into the studio. One of the reasons I was really interested in coming here was to give you all a chance to show us a little bit more about what you do and some things that you could not bring into the studio, like some of what's sitting on the tables here. So I'm going to stop asking questions. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to let you and Jackie show us some of what the consumers have to choose from and what their assistance can be like.
Wonderful.
We'll be back with In Focus in just a moment.
We have a loaner program here at the Independent Living Center that contains large, expensive items that many people cannot afford to purchase on their own. This includes several devices to help persons with vision loss to read. We have the desktop CCTV. One thing that people especially miss often is being able to read their Bible or the newspaper. And this particular device, you can make the print almost as large as the screen is tall in order to be able to read just about anything. And these are in our loaner program. We also have CCTVs for those who either have difficulty reading or their eyes get tired before they finish reading something. This particular one will take a picture of what it is that you have put in front of it, and then
DaVinci provides users with the ability to scan a document placed underneath the camera and read it aloud. Desktop.
so this will read to you whatever it is that you take a picture of.
Read it aloud. OCR text to desktop.
These devices are wonderful for reading, but they also can be used for other things, such as looking at yourself, to comb your hair, shave, put on your makeup, and we even have had a consumer who used it, pointed the camera out the window in order to be able to watch the birds at his bird feeder. So it has a variety of different and very helpful functions. Then we also have handheld CCTVs that can be used to read. And again, you can make the print very large. You can also change the color of the background if you prefer white letters on black or if you prefer blue. This is very handy for our consumers to take to church, to be able to read the bulletin or a hymnal, to be able to go to the restaurant and read the menu, to take to the grocery store, and you have a freeze frame also so that you can, if you need to reach up high to see price tags or labels, or if you need to reach down low, you can reach down with this and take a picture, and then you can freeze it and get it in front of your eyes, and you can make it larger once it's in front of your eyes. So those are some of the items in our...
9 p.m. Sunday, January 8th, 2006.
This one also speaks to you, although it does not read everything that you see. And then we also have scan and read machines that do not show anything on a screen, but you can take a picture of what you want to read and it will read it to you. So those are some of the items in our loaner program.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. We have many low vision items for persons who can no longer read ordinary print available here to the consumer. We have very large format calendars and check registers, for instance. We even have a talking calendar that will tell you what the day is and what your appointments are, or you can put in it your to-do list and it will read it to you.
Message. Pick up milk at the grocery store.
Then we have items for the kitchen. We have, and for household tasks, we have talking cooking thermometers. We have needle threaders. We have items to help people to tell time. We have talking watches that will speak to you and tell you the time. And we have talking clocks.
It is 3:13 p.m.
We have health aids, such as talking blood pressure cuffs, talking personal thermometers. We have more items to help people read. We have, as I mentioned earlier, our magnifying glasses start at 3x and go up to 14x. And they have very good lights in them so that that also assists people who might have difficulty with ordinary print to be able to read again. We have one difficulty often is that people cannot dial, I'm showing my age, they cannot make a phone call accurately because they can't see the numbers on their phones. And we have very large format phones, both mobile phones and landline phones. We have recreation things because you don't stop wanting to have fun just because you can't see. We have them in large print formats and we have them in Braille. And we have large format bingo cards. This is actually a medium-sized card. They go all the way up to about 17 inches by 12 inches. We have such things as, we also have something that there's nothing worse than having both hearing and vision loss because that cuts you off so much from the world. So we also have hearing amplifiers that can help people to hear. Even if they have hearing aids that don't work terribly well, they can use this to amplify the sounds around them. Those are just a few of the many things that we have available.
One of the neatest things that we can provide to folks on our loaner program that Jackie spoke about is the Amazon Echo. And this is a nifty little device that does many, many things. For example, if an individual has a mobility or a dexterity problem, reaching or grasping, it can turn on lights for you. Alexa, turn on demo. Okay. Alexa, turn demo blue. Okay. Alexa, turn off demo. Okay. So it can help you with lighting for safety. It can also be a source of news, source of entertainment. Ironically enough, you can have interactive conversations with her, play games, all kinds of nifty things. Another thing that is pretty exciting in the realm of technology is this little guy. It's called a talking wand. And what you do is you turn them on.
Power on.
There you go. And it comes with these little stickers. And you put the sticker on an item, and then you simply touch the pen to the sticker.
Large print measuring cups.
And it'll tell you what's been recorded on that sticker. So, and there's also little bumps around it so you can feel where the sticker is. So you can do that in a variety of things. This is a calculator.
Talking calculator.
And this is a talking scale, which is another one of our big items.
Talking bathroom scale.
So you can put these labels on a variety of things. You can even put them on clothes. They have labels that are washable so they don't come off. So that way you can, if you have a specific top that you like, or if you have a uniform at work, you can label that and then go ahead and just find the label, put the pen on it, and it'll tell you what is on that label. One of the main things for a lot of our folks with mobility concerns is carrying cups. If you're using a wheelchair or a walker or crutches, your hands are full. you don't have an opportunity to hold on to anything, but it's really important to not get dehydrated. So we have a variety of different cup holders. This will fit onto a walker or crutches or a scooter. And this version fits onto the armrest of a wheelchair, so that the cup will be at the end of the armrest like this. So that way folks can carry their cup with their wheelchair.
Keep up with local government information and shows with WGTV Online. Go to WCTV.info and click on the WGTV Online button. It's a live stream and video on demand site in one. Click the play button, you'll see whatever's on the air on WGTV Channel 11, or scroll down for videos on demand. Choose whatever meeting or show you'd like to watch. It's easy to stay informed with WGTV Online, a service of Whitewater Community Television.
Welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We have moved from the Independent Living Center down to the studios of G1013 so we can speak to their afternoon guru, Mr. Andrew Hoover. Thanks a lot for spending a little bit of time with me.
Thank you for joining us here in our lovely abode.
Listen, interesting abode. I used to live here for a period of time.
You've been here before, I think.
I've been here
At least
once
a
or
couple
twice
times.
before in my life. Only once or twice, though.
So thank you for coming.
No problem. Listen, I wanted to talk to you because you're an interesting young man, and I've mentioned to you and a couple of other people, you've heard the conversation about brain drain and all of that. You're one of those people that aren't running away from things. You're running to stay here, to make
Running
this
into the
place
fire.
better. But before we get there, give us a little bit of background about you. Obviously, you're here. I knew you from Dennis Middle School, but take me through that and what brought you to this. You've been wanting to be on the radio for a long time. You've been a performer in a lot of ways.
Well, it's always been one of those things. I mean, I was always the class clown growing up. Like how you know me, your daughter was a cheerleader at Dennis Middle School, and when I was in 7th grade, I got the chance to try out for the Dennis Middle School mascot.
Yes.
And I'd always thought being a mascot looked cool. I used to be a bat boy for the Richmond Roosters back in the day. And I got to know the gentleman that played that character, and I always thought it looked cool, Rowdy Rooster. And then when I got in 7th grade, I got the chance, and that really kind of took me out of that little normal bubble. Also in 7th grade, I got the chance. Mr. Murray, David Murray, hosted. He was the career ed teacher at Dennis Middle School, and he had a radio TV booth. Or not radio, not really TV, more radio booth, and you got to go in and create your own radio station, but you could only do it if you aced the 3 other projects before that. So I picked really easy ones. So then, I think I picked landscaping and like another weird one because it was like all online career modules, so that I could get in that one, because that was one where you kind of goof off a little bit. You get to listen to music. I did that, and by that point I was already listening to the radio nonstop. I mean, you can ask the guys that work here, Rick Duncan, Dave Snow at the time, Jessica Lee, listen to them nonstop. And I mean, don't tell my boss this. I listen to the other guys at the other stations too. I mean, I filled my life with it. I mean, I woke up, I was flipping channels to listen, and I loved it. I mean, I was, and you used to be in radio, so I'm sure you might have done this once or twice in your life too, where you talk along to the songs before they come on. And you act like you're the DJ.
I don't know what you're talking
about. You never
about.
done that. But, I did that. And when I was a freshman in high school, I got into the RHS radio TV program. I took the intro, but through scheduling, I never got in any of the other classes until my senior year. But by that time, I was already on the air. When I was 16, it was I had just turned 16, and I was walking out. I'll never forget. I was walking out of Party City, and I ran into Dave Snow. And at that time, like, I was like, oh, it's the guy on the radio.
Dave
you know,
Snow.
I had to, like, you know, every time I saw these guys, I mean, it was, if they were broadcasting live.
You were a radio group.
Yeah. I mean, I'd tell my parents, I'm like, hey, we got to stop there. We got to stop there. The radio station's there. So I ran into Dave Snow, and he said, hey, do you still want to be in radio? And I was like, yeah. So he said that they had a weekend spot coming open in a few weeks, and he'd give me a call. Well, a couple weeks went by. I never got a call. And then I got called in. Well, my first day of training was totally flip-flopped because there was somebody in our company who had a family member pass away. So everybody's shifts were switched up. So the first week, I didn't even get to train. Like, I came in, they gave me a tour, and then they're like, sorry, come back later. But shortly after that, started doing my training, and by, that was like May or March. By August, I was on the air and starting my junior year of high school. So it was really weird. I started junior year, and everybody was like, are you on the radio now? Like, you got a new job? I'm like, yeah, I did. So that kind of continued, and once I graduated high school, it wasn't for sure. I graduated early if I was gonna, you know, be offered a position here. You know, like most jobs in media, people stay in their positions for a while. So I wasn't sure if it was something that was going to happen immediately. But ended up being lucky. By July, we had a position open here, and they offered me afternoons here on G1013, middays on Star 98.3 WZZY, and then operating as one of our public service directors. And it's just been a journey. Last 6.5 years being full-time, starting part-time, and the cool thing for me is growing up listening to this station. That's the cool part. I mean, I know radio DJs all across the country now that you know, they grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, but now they're radio DJs in Los Angeles. You know, but me, I mean, I grew up on this station, going to Freedom Jam and the summer concert series and all that kind of stuff. That's stuff I grew up listening about, and now I'm part of it. To me, that's just flat out amazing. So it's been an amazing journey to get into radio, and it's one of those jobs, you know this, it's you never work in radio. Very rarely. There are days where it seems like I'm working, but very rarely do I feel like I'm working.
There you go.
So,
then you're an absolute radio DJ.
oh yeah, it's a fun job, most certainly.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is one, you like the history of this area. I've seen you collect T-shirts, buttons, all of that. What brought you to that history? What makes you want to know about the history of this area, this station, everything around you?
Well, to be honest with you, when I was in third grade, I was learning about Richmond history. I don't know if they still do that in third grade for Richmond Community Schools. When I was in third grade, we got to read a book. It's called Richmond: A Gateway to History. It was written in 1953, I believe, by Daisy Marvel Jones. It's a little orange book. People probably know what I'm talking about, but it was a book, and we got to read it, and it was a book published by Daisy Marvel Jones, who worked for Richmond Community Schools. And it was a book intended to teach students about Richmond. And inside that book, we were reading one day, and it said something about a guy named David Hoover. And I was like, who's that? Like, maybe I'm related to him. Well, come to find out, you know, David Hoover was one of the first white settlers to come to Richmond. I went home and I talked to my dad, and my dad's like, yeah, I never told you this. And my dad like goes into this whole history thing with me, and the next day we go to school, and then we learned that next day that David Hoover was the one that suggested the name of Richmond. And then I learned my family's been here since like 1780s, and we never left. But that's been one of the things to me is, you know, like I know that, you know, my ancestors came here from, you know, South Carolina to Ohio to here, and this was their promised land. I mean, they looked at this land and they settled over near Silvanook area to say, you know, this is amazing, you know. And, you know, to me, that's always one of those things, like I need to do what I can to make this home, because it was home to them. And the fact that we've never left, I mean, I'm a direct descendant, and that's one of the things. And also, we have such a rich history. And I know as a radio DJ, and you know this, and you're always out and about, anybody that's out and about in the community, you learn about all the rich history that we have in Richmond, from roller skating to lawnmowers to airplanes to anything. Richmond has, in music, of course, Richmond has that strong history. And if you get out there and explore it, it's fascinating.
if you spend some time in the Wayne County Historical Museum, you just kind of walk out going, really?
Exactly.
Here?
Exactly. And I mean, I'm a huge antique fan. I go antiquing probably, it's kind of nerdy actually. Like, I mean, I travel around going antiquing. I mean, my average Saturday is going to antique malls and just walking around. I mean, I'll go every Saturday, and some stuff changes, but it's just fascinating to look at stuff. My house smells like old books, but I love history, and especially the local history here. It's really fascinating, and it's kind of led me to being on. I'm on the Star Jeanette Foundation Board of Directors, and that's been about a year and a half now. But it's fascinating to be on that board with so many other people that care about Richmond history as much as the jazz history. I mean, that put Richmond on the map back in the day, and it's really fascinating. The history to me it's definitely one of the reasons that I continue to call this place home. I mean, I don't know of anywhere else that has the history that we do. I mean, you drive downtown and into the depot and you see all the old buildings with the old advertisements. You don't see that kind of stuff in bigger cities nowadays, or even some smaller cities that have thought that it might be good to tear some of those places down.
Become
Richmond
more
doesn't do
modern.
it. Exactly. And that's what people my age like, is some of that, that reuse, that cool look, the exposed brick walls and all that some of these places like some of the downtown establishments and depot establishments are using. To me, that's just fascinating. So,
You aren't that far out of high school, probably 4 or 5 years.
2014.
Okay. So as you were going through it, particularly junior, senior year, you were obviously hearing your peers making their plans to get out of town as fast as they can. What was that like for you? Somebody who knew that he wanted to stay here, that he wanted to be here, that this was home. And were you able to have a conversation with any of them to try to direct their path a little bit more to staying closer to home like you wanted to?
In high school, I don't know if it was really that big of a thing, but I know I run into it nowadays with a lot of my peers graduating college and things like that. And to me, it's one of those things where it has to be a double road with, mind my language, but older folk versus the younger folk. And I think that's one of the problems is that people my age, we look at the older generation and some of them look and say, well, they're not doing anything for us. They don't have this, they won't do this. And then the younger generation also looks down sometimes too. And I think that's one of the things that I like to talk to my peers about and say, if you want something, do it. And that's one of the, is getting out there and experiencing and seeing what we do have to offer. And if you want to change it, change it. There's a couple of, business just opened in downtown Richmond that is owned by a young professional who was from Richmond, came back to Richmond, opened his business. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's awesome. He saw something that he wanted and he opened it. And I think if young people can see that that's there, and to me, it was always obvious. Working with Rick Duncan and Dave Snow and our president and general manager, David Rogers, I got to see the good that was in the community, going to events. And I always tell people when they say, what's there to do? There's nothing to do in Richmond. I'm like, you want to join me for like a day? And I know there's always stuff going on weekends. And to me, it's never been that problem of wanting to leave. And I'd like to get some of my peers to see that. I know some of my peers in my generation are a little lazy, where they don't want to get out and see some of the stuff that's happening. But if they did, they'd find something that they would enjoy, whether it's, one of the fall festivals that we have. I mean, there's that stretch from like August to like November or October. It's like a festival every single weekend. And I know the Chamber just started their Wayne County weekends coming up very, very soon. I think that starts this weekend. And that's like a week, every weekend they're going to be doing something else in Wayne County to where, people my age especially got out and tried to see it. I think it'd be very beneficial for them, especially the cost of living here. That's been one of the big reasons for me. You look at the cost of living to go live in Indianapolis mm-hmm. or Dayton or Cincinnati. It's like, that's insane. When I could live here, it's small. I have everything I need. I mean, you name off like any restaurant, we have it, or it's in driving distance. And that's the other thing, Indy is, less than an hour away. Mm-hmm. So it's not far. So that's always been one of my things. Preach to my peers that we're not that far from everything else. And you can make home here. It is a nice, homey place. I mean, the fact that you can get from the east side of town to the north side in like 25, 30 minutes. And that's a bad day.
That's a very bad day.
So, you know, and then you go to Indy and you're lucky to get halfway downtown maybe in 30 minutes on a bad day. So to me, that's always been one of my things. Preach to my peers that there is opportunity there, but I think it's also, they got to find someone maybe to help them a little bit. And I've been very fortunate with that in my job where I've had those people that have geared me towards the path that I'd like to go down, but you got to seek it.
If there's something that you could tell some of our political leaders, some of the older generation, as it were, about what your generation needs to move back, thrive, once again call this home, what's a couple of things?
I would say, you know, you got to have somewhere for them to live. I think it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I don't say this in a way of any bad feelings. We don't have a lot of places for young professionals to call home here. Young professionals don't need a big place. We don't need 4 bedrooms and big bathrooms and stuff. Some of them don't even need garages. But somewhere where it's nice and cheap to call home. I know we have a lot of senior housing, but we also have a lot of senior citizens in this area. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my generation is definitely more eco-friendly. I think the loop is going to be really cool with the bike paths. And I think continuing on that, where we're making more sustainable choices and also getting like the farmer's market. The farmer's market to me is so cool. I mean, that is something that I know my generation uses and they like it. It's stuff like that that's kind of like out of the box thinking. A lot of people from what I've talked to, my generation, not fans of big box stores and all that kind of stuff. It's what's easier to get to and what's, you know, better for you and what's actually in what you're eating and who makes the clothes that you're wearing, that kind of stuff. But also in the same world, a lot of us aren't working the same jobs anymore. But like technology is definitely taking over the world. I talk to clients every day as one of our marketing consultants here about social media. And maybe it's some of these small businesses creating social media marketing directors for their businesses to help them, or I guess small business owners and political leaders trying to look at ways that they can utilize some of these college graduates when they come out. I think is probably one of the struggles that I would say.